The title of today's story is The Persians Strike Again. Remember, we read in the story yesterday that King Darius of Persia was very upset with the Athenians because they helped other city-states fight against Persia. The Persian army was very, very grand, and the Greek army was small. So Phidippides, he ran to Sparta for help, but the Spartans couldn't help him. But other Greek city-states came together and they defeated the Persians. When Phidippides ran to tell the Athenians what had occurred, that they won the battle, Phidippides died. So a tribute was made in honor of Phidippides. Do you remember what that tribute was? Well, the Greeks measured the distance he had run from Marathon to Athens. And those 26 miles became the distance for their long-distance races. Today, we call a long-distance race a marathon in memory of Phidippides and all those who fought for freedom on the plains of Marathon. So now I want you to look at the title, The Persians Strike Again. Think about what that means. What does it mean the Persians are striking again? Well, listen carefully to find out exactly what happened. In today's read aloud, you will hear the word channel. Can you say channel? A channel is a sailable route between two bodies of water. Swimming through the cold waters of the English Channel has been a challenge for many long-distance swimmers. And if you look at the picture, this body of water here is a channel. The next vocabulary word is prefer. Can you say prefer? Prefer means to choose or like something more than something else. For example, I prefer to eat ice cream rather than cookies. King Darius of Persia failed to conquer Greece and died not long after the Greeks won the Battle of Marathon. Darius' son Xerxes became the king of Persia. His anger at the Greeks for defeating his father worked inside of him until he could no longer stand it. The word defeating means winning a battle or contest. 10 years after Marathon, King Xerxes sat planning how Persia would attack Greece again. This time, he thought, Persia will have so many soldiers and ships that it will not fail. I wonder if he's right. Xerxes gathered tens of thousands of soldiers led by his finest troops. Even Xerxes, however, did not have enough ships to carry that many men to Greece by sea. We will go over land from Asia and down into Greece, he commanded. This meant that the Persians would have to cross a mile-wide channel of water that lay between Asia and northern Greece. A channel is a sailable route between two bodies of water. The Persians had to cross the channel of Hellespont to travel by land to Greece. The word channel can also refer to a television station. Xerxes told his navy captains, "We will cross the channel on an enormous floating bridge. Spread out your ships in rows and tie them together. Then lay wooden platforms across the space between the ships over which my army can pass." Now, if you look at pictures, these are the planks that they use to help connect the ships. Let's continue reading. Xerxes' vast army succeeded in crossing the decks of 600 ships and moved into Greece. There, they faced another difficulty: Greece's high mountains. To avoid having to travel over these mountains, Xerxes led his army south along a narrow strip of dry land near the eastern coast of Greece called Thermopylae. At the other end of this narrow pass, the Greeks were waiting for him. The Greeks knew that Xerxes' army could not spread out to its full width to attack here, for there simply was not enough room in the narrow pass between the mountains and the ocean. Instead, Here, a smaller army might have a chance to win. With most of the city-states working together, the Greeks had sent 10,000 men to block the Persian march. Led by the Spartan king, Leonidas, the Greeks took up positions across the full width of Thermopylae. Leonidas told his soldiers, "The longer we can hold the Persians here, the more time it gives the other Greeks to prepare for battle." With the fate or final result or destiny of their families always in their minds, Leonidas and his soldiers waited. Leonidas knew that farther south, an Athenian soldier named Themistocles was rushing to draw together a fleet of navy ships. Themistocles was sure that the war would be won at sea, for as he told the other Greeks, the Persians may force their way into Greece, but Xerxes cannot keep bringing food and other supplies to his men here by land. It takes too long. So if we control the sea, the Persians will eventually have to go home. Leonidas and his Spartan soldiers had to hold Xerxes at Thermopylae long enough for the Athenian fleet to get into position. Soon, the Persians reached the place where the Greeks blocked the pass. Xerxes sent a message to the Greeks warning them to surrender and ask for mercy. He wrote, "I command so many archers that their attack of arrows will block out the sun above you." Archers shoot arrows with the bow, like the hunting goddess Artemis. To this, one of the Spartans jokingly answered, "Fine, we prefer to fight in the shade anyway." Prefer means to like something better than something else. After waiting for 4 days for the Greeks to surrender, the furious King Xerxes gave word for his Persian armies to attack. However, just as the Greeks had predicted, only a small number of Persian soldiers could fit into the narrow pass at once, so their great numbers did not help them. Leonidas and the Greeks drove back one attack after another. Then one of the Persian officers said to Xerxes, "O great king, a Greek who lives near here offers to lead us to the Greeks through another pass in the mountains if you will pay him enough gold." Xerxes smiled grimly. "Good. Have him lead half our men along this other path so that we can come out behind the Greeks." I wonder what's going to happen. Let's read some more to find out. The Persians began to move back so that they could take the other route. But Leonidas of Sparta saw what was happening. Quickly meeting with the other Greek leaders, he commanded, "Take your men safely away from here. I will remain behind with 300 of my best Spartan fighters and will force the Persians to take the other longer way around." "But this is very dangerous for you and your 300 men," another officer protested. "Once the Persians come through the other pass, they will circle around and attack you from behind. You will be caught between the two Persian forces." Leonidas turned to one of his Spartan soldiers. "What do you think?" His friend shrugged. "We are Spartans," he said. And that was all. It was enough. Leonidas told the other Greeks, "There is your answer. We will stay." So the rest of the Greek army quickly retreated out of the narrow pass as the 300 Spartans spread out across the area. When they were in position, Leonidas told them, "Let us fight in such a way that forever after, all Persians will speak of us in amazement, and all Greeks in words of pride." Together, the Spartans bravely fought as long as they could. But in the end, the Persians defeated the Spartans and continued on. Leonidas and his 300 Spartans are still remembered more than 2,000 years later for their heroism or bravery for fighting against such a large army. These Greeks were able to hold the Persians at the pass long enough for the other Greek forces to prepare for battle. This famous act of courage by the Spartans became known as the Last Stand at Thermopylae. Soon, the Persians continued south and reached Athens. To their shock, they found the city nearly deserted or empty and abandoned. Meanwhile, Themistocles, the Athenian navy commander, had moved all of the Greeks to nearby areas, including an island called Salamis. When Xerxes realized this, he sent for his navy from Persia. "Sail over here and attack Salamis," he ordered. The Persians took a long time to arrive in their ships, and they had to sail close to land so that they could stop at different cities on the way for supplies. But this was exactly what the clever Themistocles had counted on. He had hidden the Greek navy in the bays and harbors that lay between Salamis and Athens on the Greek mainland. As in the mountain pass at Thermopylae, the greater Persian numbers could not help Xerxes in this narrow neck of water. When the Persian ships approached, Themistocles signaled to his ship captains, "Attack!" From their hiding places, the smaller, faster Greek ships surprised the Persians. The larger Persian ships, jammed together in the narrow waters, could not turn around to defend themselves. Using metal battering rams attached to the bow or front of their ships, the Greeks smashed into the helpless Persian ships. One after another, the Persian vessels sank. Those few that did not sink sailed away, broken and battered. The Greek victory at Salamis was complete. King Xerxes realized, "We cannot stay here if we cannot count on our ships to bring us food, medicine, and more soldiers from Persia." Finally, the Persians left Greece. There would be only one more land battle the following year, which was won by the Greeks, but nothing compared to the heroic stand by the Greeks at Marathon, Thermopylae, and Salamis. Finally, the Persian threat was over forever, and the stories of these great victories would be told again and again for years to come. That is the end of today's story. Now it's time for some word work. In the read aloud, you heard one of the Greeks state, "Fine, we prefer to fight in the shade anyway." Say the word prefer with me. Prefer. Prefer means to choose or like something more than something else. Some people prefer to walk to school rather than ride the bus. Now, think of things you prefer more than other things. Let's do a time to climb with the word prefer.